Hi everybody, my name's Amanda and I wanted to do my presentation about the COVID-19 vaccine. I decided to choose this topic because, well, we are experiencing a global pandemic, but also because we have discussed vaccines in the past and also how our immune system works in relation to those. So I thought it would be a fun topic to discuss and also learn more about myself. So here we go. All right, so I want to begin here with how the immune system reacts to antigens. And if you recall, earlier this semester we discussed the body's immune system and how these antigens and antibodies react. Now, antibodies are produced by B cells. And if you recall, these B cells, they remember pathogens and they remember how to terminate them. And they do this through these Y-shaped proteins or antibodies, as seen here on the image on the right. Now, every antibody produced is specific to certain antigens. And what I mean by that is the antigen will fit perfectly to these antigen binding sites that are located on the antibody. Now, if the body's exposed to an antigen that it has never been exposed to before, then it will not initially have the correct antibodies in order to eliminate that antigen. So this leads us into the question, how are we exposed to these antigens? And earlier this semester, we discussed the differences between active immunity and passive immunity. For the sake of this presentation, I want to stick with active immunity because that's going to include our vaccinations. So we can be exposed naturally to an antigen through just an infection. So you just getting a cold, someone else gets you sick, that's a natural way to produce active immunity. Another way our body is exposed and creates immunity is artificially, and that is through vaccines. And specifically in regards to the COVID-19 vaccine, I'll be discussing how that works in regards to the immune system. Now, currently we have three different types of COVID-19 vaccines being administered in the United States. We have the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. And each of these vaccines work a little bit differently from each other in how they're administered, but also how they help the body recognize these antigens. And we'll discuss each of these. The Pfizer vaccine, this one's given in a series of 2 doses 3 weeks apart. And it's pretty unique in the sense that it works by delivering RNA into host cells to allow that expression of the COVID-19 antigen. Now, once that vaccine reaches the cell, it produces millions of copies of these proteins that mimic the COVID-19 virus, and they pop outside of the cell. As you can see here, the image on the right shows a good explanation of this. So here at the very last step, you see the cell, and then on the outside here we have these spike proteins that mimic that COVID-19. And what happens is your body it picks up on those and it says, hey, these aren't supposed to be here. And so your antibodies will attach to those. Your B cells will make antibodies that can attach to those and remove them from the cell. So when you are exposed to the actual COVID-19 virus, your body already has the antibodies needed to eliminate that virus. Next, we have the Moderna vaccine, and this is also pretty similar to the Pfizer vaccine in that it is administered in 2 different shots, and that's about 1 month apart. It is also an mRNA type of vaccine, and I, on the right here, showed another representation of that mRNA vaccine process just to kind of get it ingrained. So it is also taken, that spike protein is taken from the COVID virus, and then mRNA is made with instructions to make viral proteins. A little fun fact, if you remember, so our cells have that lipid bilayer, so there's a reason why those mRNA are packaged in lipid nanoparticles, and essentially that's because it will be able to enter our cell. So if it didn't have those lipid nanoparticles, our cells would not accept them. So just a little fun fact. But yeah, essentially the Moderna vaccine is pretty similar to Pfizer, and it just is another way to have RNA used to make viral proteins. Lastly, we have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And this vaccine differs in the sense that only one injection is needed, but also the genetic material is taken from the COVID-19 virus and placed into a harmless virus carrier in order to produce spike proteins in our cells. So the outcome is similar in the sense that our cell is still going to produce these spike proteins in order for our bodies to produce the correct antibodies. However, just the way the process works is a little bit differently. So instead of mRNA being sent to our cells, it's actually another virus that's harmless that is being placed into the cell. So to wrap things up, I wanted to address some of the common concerns that are associated with the COVID-19 vaccine. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of misinformation as well. So I just wanted to, based off of the science and research that I have done, address some of those common questions that are associated with this topic. That first question being, can I contract COVID-19 from the vaccine? The answer is no. As I mentioned, none of the COVID-19 vaccines actually contain the live virus that causes COVID-19. This means that the vaccine cannot make you sick with COVID-19. However, as the vaccine teaches the immune system how to recognize and fight the virus, this can sometimes lead to symptoms such as fevers. The symptoms are signs that the body is actually building protection against the virus that causes COVID-19, but again, it's not the actual COVID-19 virus. Another common question is, does the vaccine alter my DNA? The answer is no. So both mRNA and viral vector COVID-19 vaccines deliver genetic material to the cells to start building protection against the virus. However, that material never actually enters the nucleus of the cell. As we know, the nucleus contains our DNA. So this means that the genetic material never actually reaches our DNA. Another common question we see is, shouldn't I let my body contract the virus naturally for a better protection in the future? Ultimately, it's up to an individual to decide. However, as we have learned in this class about active immunity, both artificial and natural causes result in the same immunity. The difference is that with natural immunity, an individual is putting themselves at greater risk of the symptoms associated with COVID-19. Along with that, able to spread the virus to others more easily. However, with vaccines, symptoms are drastically reduced or eliminated while the body is still able to provide immunity. The last question is, and this one's pretty common, is the vaccine safe? And this is a really big concern for a lot of people. Now, while the COVID-19 vaccine has not currently been approved by the FDA, it has been authorized and recommended for use in the United States. That being said, millions of people have received the vaccine so far, and it has shown to be about 95% effective in preventing the COVID-19 virus. There are, however, individuals, specifically people with certain allergies or those with specific medical conditions, who should consult their doctor before receiving the vaccine. Overall, though, it has been shown to be a safe and effective way to prevent COVID-19. And that concludes my presentation on the COVID-19 vaccine. I hope you all enjoyed it and found this informational.